On this week's episode of Famus Made, we have a special guest. So, Parks.
What's good, man?
How you doing?
Chilling, man.
All right. Welcome to Famus Made.
No doubt.
Glad to have you.
Pleasure to be here.
Ready to get to business?
No doubt, of course.
I appreciate you. So you've been referred to Parks from Joe Buddens Podcast a lot.
No doubt.
Pretty much people know you from that. But let people know where you started, your journey started, as opposed to...
How far back are we going?
However far back you want people to know.
I mean, my journey started in upstate New York. I'm from Elmira, New York, which is a small town. It's mostly known for being a prison town, honestly.
Yes.
So I'm from there, and I had a rap group up there called Holla Factory back in the early 2000s. We started, and that's where I got my start making music, you know what I'm saying? And due to various incarcerations and whatnot, we never really got to get off the ground, but I decided to keep pushing forward as far as, doing music, engineering, production, everything, playing instruments. So I just kept it pushing, man. Everyone's home now, so, glory be to God. Hopefully we'll get some shit working, but so I went from Elmira to Chicago I had an internship that I had to do for college because I went to a music business college in upstate New York. And I had to do an internship to graduate. And so I moved to Chicago, worked at a studio there called Hinge that did Lupe Fiasco's first two albums. They did a bunch of Kanye records. They did a lot of gospel records that were big gospel records. Donald Lawrence, Clark Sisters, stuff like that. I don't know if you're in that world, but...
Not really.
yeah, I wasn't either. But it was big, big records. So I did that for a year, and then I was gonna move to Philly, but my brother was living in New York, and he was like, yo, just come stay with me for a little while. So I did, and I never left.
The rest is history from there. So what made you want to get behind, the boards as opposed to just being an artist?
So it all just kind of happened that way. I started off at one point in my early days when I was probably 14. I would say from 14 to 17, I actually rapped. And we was just finding beats off the internet, me and the homies, and making tapes and stuff like that. But my house was kind of the studio. Just by default. And by studio, I mean we had a Magnavox, them old school stack tape, tape record player, radio, CD joints, and we would just hook it up and record into that. And then it, went from that to the computer, and you know what I'm saying? It just kind of became, it came out as a necessity. So I went from rapping, I learned how to kind of start making beats on the computer at the time, which was weird and unheard of. This is 1998. 98, 99. I was using Fruity Loops, which was, a joke back then, basically, to people. Sir. People didn't take that shit serious until Ninth Wonder, basically, salute to Ninth. And now everyone uses it, so it's regular. But, so I was making beats, and then, being that I was the studio, I had to kind of learn how to engineer. So I did.
Makes sense. So what was the music scene up in Elmira?
Pretty slow. There was two rap crews. It was me and Shadyville was the other group. So
no influences from upstate at the time?
Not really. Let me think if there was anybody. Not really, yo. There was nobody, Griselda obviously wasn't nowhere. We're about the same age, but they weren't making noise at least enough to be, this is pre-internet. You know what I'm saying? Or at least rudimentary internet. There was no social media and shit yet. So if they were doing stuff, we wouldn't have heard it. You feel me? But there was some other Ithaca had a couple different things going on. Binghamton had a couple different things going on. But for the most part, it was very, no one ever heard of anybody from up there type shit. You know what I'm saying? At least on a rap front. Buffalo had Rick James. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Timbaland at the time was working a lot in Rochester and Ithaca. But I didn't really know that at the time. This is Aaliyah Records and stuff around that era. But, I was a teenager. I didn't know how to get in contact with motherfuckers.
Yeah, pre-social media, before you could hit a DM and direct somebody attention, right in the inbox. So, what's the biggest difference between being an artist and being an engineer, and how does it help? Because, from a music standpoint, okay, you know how artists want to sound, but then the language changes. Now you got to understand the language. So what's the biggest difference?
I guess the good thing about me is that I've been a musician and a DJ and a producer, so I get what people, I can communicate with artists very easily. You know what I'm saying? When they say I want it to be a little bit more, you know, people use all types of weird terms. I want it to be warm, I want it to be fuzzy, I want it to be sharp, you know, like shit that ain't really a technical description, but I understand what they're saying because I speak that language. So it's easy for me to, you know, work with artists because I kind of am one. Even though I don't rap or sing or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. I get it. You know what I mean?
How easy or hard was it to transition to go from working on the boards at D&D, DITC, to like the studios, like a podcast?
Yeah, I treat it the same way. And Joe, you know, I was working with Joe for a million years as a rapper, so we already had that rapport as far as like communicating between the technical and performance side. And it really isn't too much different. Like, we still punch in like a rapper punches in on the podcast and stuff like that, which I don't know if other people do that. I think everyone else kind of just goes and then edits. I'm not really the type of dude, historically, that wanted to be in front of a camera or wanted to be talking particularly. Outside of, like, the homies, I'm very vocal with the homies. We're in the studio, we're talking or whatever. Like, I'm going to say, yo, this shit is trash, this shit is, you know what I mean? But, so that was kind of a weird transition, but at the same time, it felt natural because I was with people that I fuck with on like a real life human basis.
Okay, so you work with like a lot of artists from underground to Grammy nominated. Congrats on that.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So what makes you like want to work with an artist? Because you have people like Passport Gift and David Bars, She Chappelle, a couple other people, but I know these guys personally. So what's your interest in an artist, if not just them? In general, working with them?
My main shit, number one, is obviously you got to be talented. You know what I'm saying? But the number two thing for me is I got to fuck with you as a person. And that probably holds me back, honestly, in some ways, because I don't really like just making beats and sending them out to people. I like the camaraderie in music, you know what I'm saying? Like, I always wanted to be in a band when I was like a kid and shit, you know what I'm saying? So this is just a continuation of that. I need to fuck with the people on a human level. You know what I'm saying? Like,
makes sense.
Yeah, because, you know, if you're doing music together, you're probably going to be in a studio for a long time. You're probably going to be expressing feelings through the music or just in life because you're going through some shit and now you got a studio session that night. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to vibe with someone or it's not going to work, in my opinion. Some people it may work for, just, yo, I'm getting the bread, I'm sending the shit out, do your thing. I can't really rock like that.
It got to be personal because even if you look at the way music is made, and sometimes even samples evoke a feeling. For sure. And an artist or a producer, and you looking like, oh shit, all right, well, if he felt that, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all both could be like, oh, I was here when I did this, or I was here when I did that. So it works, you know, hand in hand together. So I think that's definitely one of the ways. So how was your trip to the Grammys? You know, was you starstruck when you got there, when you seen anybody that talked to you?
Well,
not starstruck, but you know what I mean? Like, oh shit.
I'm used to being around people with notoriety and celebrity at this point, so it don't be starstruck, but it definitely was bugged out to, like, you know, you brush shoulders with someone, you turn around and it's The Rock. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different level of, you know what I'm saying? Like, celebrity, you hear people, yo, you turn around and, you know, think someone's talking to you or whatever, and it's Cardi chasing Offset down the, you know what I mean? Like, yes, we're all trying to get on the red carpet at one point, it's like a log jam of people, and it's Chuck D and Flavor Flav behind me, I'm next to Benny, you know, who I know a little bit from, he's been on the podcast and stuff like that, been in the studio before. But I'm, you know, kind of kicking with him, and Ice-T is pulling him aside. You know what I mean? Like, that type of shit was really bugged out. Like, there's just mads, like, Lil Uzi Vert's next to me, like, and we're all trying to get in the same spot, like, trying to get on the train with the doors are closing type shit. Like, so that was crazy. But the experience overall, it was cool, man. I mean, the reality of the Grammys is they don't really give a fuck about anybody unless you're like Taylor Swift or what's the dude, Harry Styles that won the shit, or Lizzo or Beyonce. It's like 10 tables down there that you see on the camera. You know, everyone's sitting at the round table with their wine or whatever it may be. But then it's the staples or the whatever it is now, crypto. So it's a fucking arena full of motherfuckers, but it's only like 10 tables down here. So, you know, it was cool. It was good to go to it, but I don't know if I would actually go to the ceremony again. You also couldn't drink. You couldn't eat. You could have water, but it was Dasani, and I don't mean to sound bougie, but I don't really want to drink Dasani for $9 a bottle. And the shit is like 6 hours long, yo.
Yeah, that's a long
time. That's a troop, bro.
Yeah, that's a long time.
In dress clothes?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You want to take your shoes off with the pants?
I need a drink or something. I got to just sit here. It's more fun to watch it on TV because, like, it's like being on the scene of like a movie or something like that. They don't
understand, yeah.
It's not like watching it on TV. They're doing commercial breaks and there's people on the loudspeaker. Like, everyone get to your seats. We're live in 5, 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it's a production.
It's a production. Yeah. So it's cool, but it's not that much fun. Like, I would go again if I or someone I was working with was in one of them Taylor Swift joints and I could be down there. I would do it again.
Okay.
But as far as just being in the crowd, like, that's not really it.
So your last project, Gift Rapping 5.
No doubt.
You work with Passport Give.
My brother.
How did you decide to say, okay, we're going to add David Bars and Rashid Chappelle to that project?
So we, those are my brothers. We did a project with David Bars last year, Unorthodox, and me and Gift are kind of always working on music. Every weekend we're here, a couple days a week we're here working on music. So we have a whole warehouse full of shit. And Rashid came over just on some hangout, like, let's, see if we can do something. And we started playing records, and I think we recorded like 5 or 6 records that weekend.
He played me those, by the way.
Yeah.
In the car ride, he played me those. Like, yo, working on a new album with such and such. I'm like, all right, cool.
Word. Yeah. And then Bars, the same type of time. He's down here, he lives out of town, but he'd be here, every other Saturday or something like that. So he comes, and I think it's the same day that Rashid was here, and he starts hopping on shit. And now we got 5 or 6 records with all 3 of them, and it's like, I bet. And so every year we do the Gift Rapping project, and this year it was like, well, we're going to come with this co-op album next year, 2023, this year. Let's do a group, at least, everyone's kind of involved in some type of way as like an introduction to the group as like a thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because no one knows us as a group. Everyone knows everyone individually, but let's put this idea together. So we did it.
So did you always know that music was life for you, or what age did you?
My first memory is my dad teaching me how to put a record on, like digging in the crates with my dad, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he had a crazy record collection. He was big into music. He didn't play or nothing like that, but my cousin did. He was one of them dudes that can pick up any instrument and just play that shit. So he was super encouraging of me. As I started playing guitar when I might have been 8, 9, something like that. So, yeah, that shit is really, it's been a one-track mind for me, honestly.
So, as a producer, right,
Yeah.
You say you play a lot of instruments.
I do.
This day and age, a lot of people, like you said, they use FL, they use VSTs, virtual instruments and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that, as opposed to playing loud drums to somebody just, using...
So, to me, it's like, at the end of the day, I don't care what it takes to get a dope record done. If it's a dope record, it's a dope record, I don't care if you made that shit with pots and pans or $1 billion studio or whatever. If it's dope, it's dope. That being said, for me, I like being, like I told you, I started off Fruity Loops early, and that shit was cool, but I was always like, yo, I want to get a machine so I can like play that shit. You know what I'm saying? So even though that technology, I still use a lot of old technology stuff from the early 90s, 80s sometimes. It makes it a little bit more difficult, but I like that. Like, it kind of forces you to do some weird shit and some different shit. But like I said, if you make something dope, you make something dope. It really don't matter. And I still use Fruity Loops sometimes. Not that often, or FL Studio, I guess they call it now. Mm-hmm. I use Ableton a lot, and I can work on anything. Like, I'm not like, I gotta have X machine or X plugin. Like, I'll work with whatever. Okay. But I have more fun when it's something that's a little more challenging or something that feels more like a live instrument.
So what's something musically that you haven't done yet?
Won a Grammy. Damn, I don't know. So, like, right now, me and my partners, we're called the Wednesday Nights. Gift's a part of it. We've been creating samples from scratch, essentially. Like, so it's kind of like a band feel, you know what I'm saying? Guitarist, live bass, live keys, live drums.
Let me hold that right there. Are you making a pack?
Yeah, well, I think so.
Okay, all right, cool.
So our goal last year in 2022 was to make 100 compositions, and we did. And some of them ended up on Bars projects, some of them ended up on the co-op Christmas joint. So we still got a bunch in the stash. I think we're gonna do a group instrumental album, but then have a couple features, probably from the guys and maybe some other names. And I may do a pack too. I also want to, the sample game is like, being that I work with like DJ Premier, for instance, I know what he wants as far as samples, not only how they sound or whatever, but like, you don't want something that everybody else has.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying?
In-house. Yeah,
so I want to have some shit available to kind of everybody, and then I want to have, that's why I wanted to do 100, so I could keep 20 in the stash for my producer friends and send them out to them, and then still have shit to play with for an album and to put out for the general public, basically.
Most definitely.
But we're still trying to figure out what to do with that, honestly. Like, there's so many different ways to do it. You could release that shit on Bandcamp, or you could put it out just as a regular album and promote it and hope people sample it. You could do Splice or something like that, Arcade, all those type of things. And the answer is probably really to do them all, but we'll see how it goes. You know what I'm saying? For me right now, it's just about, my guys, at least a couple of them come from more of a rock background. So it's like training them to get more in a soul kind of feel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Levels to it.
Yeah. Like, they're dope at doing regular rock shit. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I don't want all of that shit to be that. It's like getting their brain to step outside the box and, play on the different side of the beat and play some chord progressions that they wouldn't do and, get funky with it. So my goal was to, A, do that, and then B, just build up a warehouse of shit, and then we'll figure it out from there, basically.
So I'm pretty sure Joe Buddens Podcast is like top 5 podcasts on it.
It's up there.
It's up there, somewhere around there, at least in urban.
No question, in urban and music in general, for sure.
Yeah. So given your role on there, how does it feel like, what do you feel your responsibility or your duty is being in your position? Because like you said, you're not really on the camera, but now that you have, you have that take, you knew Joe for a long time. Yeah. What is your you feel your role is now to, if anybody want to come up and do exactly what you're doing or follow in the footsteps?
So I guess that's a couple different questions. My role, my responsibility as far as a podcaster is definitely, it's a fine line. We talk about it sometimes on the pod, especially on the Patreon, like a little more behind the scenes stuff. It's got to be entertaining. You feel me? Like, no one wants to hear safe shit or whatever. Sometimes we got to go up there and just make an argument to make an argument because it's a show.
Yes.
You feel me? Like, but at the same time, I do feel obligated to try to be informed about shit, try not to say something that's wildly offensive because it's a very sensitive time right now. And then for me, like, it's always, like, I was on, you were there when I was on Eclipse. Like, I feel like I'm one of the few people on that big of a platform that really goes hard for the type of music that I do. And there's a whole community of us, underground hip-hop, boom bap, however you want to classify it. I feel obligated, because that's where I come from, and that's what I love, to push that and promote it as much as I can. So I feel obligated to do that. Now, as far as anybody else trying to do what I do, I mean, honestly, my biggest piece of advice to anybody is just, A, try shit, step outside your comfort zone, put it out, because having that shit sit on your hard drive ain't gonna help nobody. Do that shit every single day, regardless of what you're doing. If you make music and you want to get rich doing it, or even make a living doing it, it's not easy, but you're definitely not gonna do it if you're only doing that shit one day a week, or one day a month, or when I feel like it. You gotta kind of break out, and I know it's hard as an artist, practice. You know what I'm saying? Even if the shit don't turn out dope, like, you might learn something in the process of making some whack shit that'll help you when you're trying to make some dope shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, or you could be doing like some nerdy shit, like organizing your drums, or, you know what I'm saying, chopping samples so you can use them in a beat later, or digging for samples. Like, there's a million ways to be productive in music without necessarily, even if you're not inspired. Mm-hmm. Again, it don't matter if we're talking podcasting, music, anything that's a non-traditional job, like, you have to treat it like a traditional job to some degree.
Yep, same way you clock in, you clock out, you take your break. It don't got to be at the same exact time, but it got to be the same repetition in order for you to just constantly keep growing. So,
and I'm not ignorant to the fact that, like, 'cause I've worked jobs while chasing this dream. Like, you'd be tired, you know what I'm saying? But you have to.
What drives you more?
Word.
Being tired or trying to get out that position you're in?
Exactly. Anytime opportunities come, like, I remember, I think it was probably it might have been 2010, 2011, I made it a goal to make 2 beats a day. Or work on music and something, maybe I was recording somebody or mixing someone, so I would count that as one joint or whatever. Mm-hmm. But to this day, I'm still pulling beats from that stash. That's fucking however many, I can't even do the math on that good. It's a shitload of beats, you know what I'm saying? And obviously you gotta upgrade them, update them, change the drums, change the format, change the tempo, whatever. But if you treat the shit like that, you will have shit to pull from for years to come.
And that saves a lot. You know what I'm saying? That saves a lot for somebody who's doing as much as you're doing. So, like, since you have found, have you found it difficult to navigate, like, the hate since you're in a level where people want to reach and you kind of, like, at the top?
Yeah.
How do you find, like, a way to navigate that? Like, how do you do it?
I'm not going to lie. It's difficult. Especially, there was some podcast turmoil a couple years ago, and that shit was honestly hard. It was hard on me and all of us that were involved. And some of it's our fault, and some of it was just fans being fans, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's difficult, but you got to realize that there's a couple things I realized. Number one, when you're in the public eye in any type of manner, people don't really think that you're a person. They think of you as like a character on a TV screen or a video game. Facts. Like they don't think, oh, Park's the person. They think Park's the podcast character. Mm-hmm. So you gotta be aware of that and not let it really get to you. Because the reality is, if you see 99% of these people with the little dog avatar or the anime avatar that's talking shit to you online somewhere, they would show you love if they saw you somewhere in public. And they're just trying to get a rise out of you. And honestly, that shit is dope. You know what I'm saying? And I learned that shit from Joe to a degree, is like, even if they're talking bad about you, they're talking about you. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? If you're not evoking any type of emotion in people, then you're not doing it right. Mm-hmm. So if they hate you, at least they felt something.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? And
that's a fact.
Also, people's, this shit goes in tides. You know what I'm saying? People will hate you one day and love you next, and you gotta just block out some of the hate. And it's difficult too, because that's the shit that you get on Twitter. You'll get 100 people saying some dope shit about you, and then you'll get one person saying some whack shit, and you want to go at them.
That one
you know what I'm saying?
Right?
You want to go on their neck, and it's like, that shit ain't worth it, man.
You ain't worried about the 100 good. You worried about that one.
You're not showing no love to the 100 people that show love, and then you're going crazy on the guy that didn't. Like, so you got to just learn to deal with that shit. And I mean, again, we're human at the same time, so sometimes you're gonna react, and it is what it is. Keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying? You
ever thought about doing your own podcast when you see you get just so much love and things of that nature?
I have, and we've had a couple ideas. GIF is going to be a part of something that I want to do. Some of it has been, it's weird for me to say, but technological, I don't want to say difficulty, but like I have ideas that I want to do, but it requires some of these platforms and sites to be able to do shit that they can't do yet. Without giving specifics, because I don't want anybody to steal my sauce. But
exactly,
there is some shit that I want to do, but there's no real good way to do it right now. But it's really just got to be the right situation. The same way it is with music. It's got to be, I don't want to do anything by myself. That's just boring to me. Like me sitting there talking to a camera into a microphone by myself sounds very fucking boring. So I need somebody with me. GIF is a perfect person, in my opinion. So we'll probably do something, but it's got to be someone like with music, someone I fuck with heavy, someone that they're talented. Mm-hmm. I trust their opinions, their ear. So yeah, at some point I will. I don't know when, I don't know what, but I have a bunch of ideas. It's just about fleshing it out. And the other thing is too, like we podcast more than I think any other podcaster on the planet. Like we do a 3-hour, roughly 2.5, 3-hour episode 2 days a week, and then we do another 2 hours, the same days, but two more days a week. So that's 10 hours of content, and then sometimes we do some additional shit as well. That shit is a lot. You know what I'm saying? So to find the energy or even desire to do more on my own, it's got to be the right situation.
Absolutely.
But I love doing it. I love content. You know what I'm saying? I like broadcast. I consider it more broadcast than content. I think content kind of minimizes it, but I love that shit, but it's just about got to be the right shit.
Would you consider this success, or would you consider your calling to what you're doing?
I would consider it success for sure. Okay. It was a goal of mine to kind of be where I'm at, and I actually wrote down goals at one point. I got to redo that. I'd be slacking, but I think that actually helps to set down, write your goals out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would consider it successful. I don't know that I would ever. I'm an underground head, so I never thought I'd be like Grammy nominated or on the biggest broadcast in the world or shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I was happy just making a little fucking hardcore hip hop with my homies. You know what I'm saying? Like, and hopefully that would be successful. But I never really pictured it taking me to places it's taken me. And you know, again, thank God for that shit.
You put in the work, so you know, work. What I say, my saying is hard work meets hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So even if, like I said, the opportunity come to your lap, the work that you got to put in after is still going to be hard work.
Word.
To keep it, it's not what you get, it's what you sustain.
Facts.
You know
Facts.
what I'm saying? It's not what you get, it's what you sustain. So do you have any crazy studio sessions that you got? Like, what's the craziest studio session you've been in that you could speak about on camera at least?
Damn, I mean, crazy is relative. There's different levels of crazy. Man, some of the best stuff I feel like I've told or has been told. Joe doing Truth or Truth off Slaughterhouse's mixtape with Drama. I forgot what that shit was called. On the House, I think. That was an incredible experience. All the Slaughterhouse shit was fucking crazy, honestly, from that first album especially, because we did that whole first album in a week. And it was at D&D, you know, everyone came through. That shit was just a wild time. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. But any singular story, I don't know. I would really have to think about that for a minute, and I don't have a good answer off the top of my head. But the Slaughterhouse shit was a lot of fun. All the Slaughterhouse shit was actually a lot of fun. It's a shame that they, aren't seeing eye to eye right now. But the album that never came out, that was amazing. We were at Just Blaze Studio in Harlem. It was Just, it was A-Rab, it was Illmind, it was Justice League. Q-Tip was there at the beginning. And everyone's just going crazy, you know what I mean, putting their ideas together in a big, beautiful studio. That was crazy. I hope at some point that album, and they had footage too. They had a camera. Shout out to Walu, my guy, filmed the whole thing to make like a documentary, and all that shit is just sitting in hard drives, which is absolutely crazy.
Billy Joe go.
Billy Joe goes hard, man. That's one of the GOATs, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's really, me and Rashid and Lou and Giff bonded over Billy Joel last summer. That shit is hilarious still to this day. Like, he would come over, we wouldn't even do no music. We would just put on Billy Joel playlists and go crazy. That shit don't make no sense to me, but he got a lot of slaps, man. Rashid was right. He said he's a top 10 songwriter of all time, and I don't know if I'm still on board with that, but he got a lot of damn slaps.
Yeah, but he has different tastes. Like, you ever take a ride with him, you be like, he's playing this, but he has good taste, but it's
different, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely different. He's so super hardcore, not super hardcore, but he's super rap, but his music taste, when you take a ride with him, it's just...
It's also, he has some very, there's certain albums that as a hip-hop fan and as a rapper, I felt like everybody in the world has heard or loves. And there's some of them that he does not. I won't put them out there. You can ask him yourself. Mm-hmm. But there's some records where it's like, you don't like that? You never heard XYZ? Nah, I don't really like them like that. It's like, yo, fam, you are weird.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like classic shit. It's like, dog, come on, man. But
He's
Billy
different.
Joel, yeah, you know what I mean? He'll rock that all day. Yo, it's Parks. Parks on the boards. It's Parks, all that good shit. Here with my man Famus on Famus Made podcast. Out now on YouTube and anywhere you can stream dope shit.
Salute, family.
Salute.